Have you ever wondered why more than 90% of adults who lose weight will gain it all right back, if not more, in just 3 years or less? Or why it can be relatively easy to lose a significant amount of weight in a short period of time with diet and exercise, but then incredibly difficult to keep it off long term, even for the most disciplined of people? Well, those are just a couple of the big questions that'll be answered in this video as I tackle one of the most debated topics in the health and fitness industry. For decades, experts have gone back and forth debating whether weightlifting or cardio is better for fat loss. And while there's been compelling evidence presented for both sides, the most common answer you will find will say that cardio is better. In fact, if you were to just do a Google search of this same question, the top answer will be cardio is better. So, not surprisingly, that is what most people believe. However, in this video, I'm going to give you 6 irrefutable science-based reasons pulling from over 25 different research studies to prove to you that weightlifting is far more effective and efficient than cardio for losing fat and keeping it off long term. Now, first I'll go over a couple disclaimers to make sure we're on the same page, and then we will dive right into these 6 evidence-based points. And it's important you understand up front that these 6 reasons will all build off of each other, so it's important that you watch through to the end, even if it means you have to stop and come back to finish later, because it's extremely important you get the big picture of how all 6 reasons work together to answer this question. Then I'll cap off those 6 reasons by explaining why, if all of that is true, you'll find so many experts and research articles still saying the exact opposite, even the top answer on a Google search. Then I'll finish with one final tip on how to make sure whatever exercise you do is as effective as possible. And guys, if you end up finding any of the content in this video valuable, I'd appreciate you hitting that like button and letting me know in the comment section below. I love the feedback, and it'll help tell YouTube that this video is worth recommending. So really quickly, disclaimer number 1, in this video, the words weightlifting, resistance training, and anaerobic exercise will all be used interchangeably. Just 3 different ways of saying the same thing. And similarly, cardio, aerobic exercise, and endurance training will all be used to mean the same thing. Now, second, there are several different types of cardio, and each one of them will have a slightly different effect on the body and will change how this comparison with weightlifting looks like. However, in this video, I am mostly talking about steady state cardio, where you're performing the same action for an extended period of time. So swimming, biking, jogging, etc. And that is the type of cardio that most experts and research articles are talking about when referring to this debate. Third, obviously, diet and nutrition are an enormous factor when it comes to fat loss. And if you're not doing that right, it's not really going to matter whether you're doing cardio or weight training. It's going to be very difficult to lose weight. So keep in mind that as we go through this debate, we're assuming you're eating well and that there's no difference in diet between the 2 exercise regimens. Final disclaimer, I want to be very clear up front that I am not telling you that cardio is bad or that you should stop doing cardio or that it's not effective for fat loss. In fact, the most effective regimens will combine both cardio and weightlifting as long as you're doing it in the right quantities, order, etc. For my private training clients, I always include an element of cardio in their regimens. However, just telling you to do both doesn't help, right? It's a cop-out because it doesn't answer the question. So in this video, I'm addressing the hypothetical scenario of if you had to choose between weightlifting and cardio for the specific goal of long-term fat loss, which would be better. So now that we have that clear, let's jump right into my reason number 1, which has to do with something extremely powerful and important called the basal metabolic rate, which, to put very simply, is the rate at which your body burns calories just from being alive. Basically, the BMR tells you how many calories you would burn in a day if you did nothing but stay in your bed without moving, binging Netflix the entire day, which none of us would ever do, right? Of course not. But just how important is your basal metabolic rate? How big of a difference does it actually make? Well, in a well-known study published by the International Society of Sports Nutrition, researchers tracked all the calories that human beings burn in a day, called the total daily energy expenditure, and broke them down into 4 different categories. They found that only about 5% of the calories were burned as a result of time spent exercising, about 10% from the thermic effect of food, which are the calories we burn from digesting the food that we eat during the day, 15% from non-exercise activity, such as getting out of bed, walking up the stairs, going to work, etc., and a whopping 70% of the total calorie burn is from our basal metabolic rate, the rate that we burn calories at rest, watching TV on the couch, or sleeping in your bed. Now, this isn't exact, right? Science never is, and somebody who spends 8 hours a day exercising is going to have a higher percentage of their total daily burn come from the time spent exercising. However, any increase in the amount of time you spend exercising is going to be relatively insignificant in its effect on the total daily burn compared to the basal metabolic rate. If you want to experience just how insignificant, jump on a treadmill or bike that tracks calories burned and stay on it for an hour. Then take the total amount of calories you burn during that hour, which by the way will be an average of about 300 calories, and calculate how long you'd have to continue exercising in order to match the total amount of calories you eat in a day. And if you haven't done this before, you'll be shocked. For example, my burger of choice is the Baconator from Wendy's. It is absolutely incredible, and it's also 950 calories. So I'd have to be on that bike or treadmill for over 3 hours just to burn off that one Baconator.
And like most of you, I don't have that kind of free time or patience on a treadmill. But luckily, we don't have to, because regardless of how long we exercise, more than 90% of our daily calorie burn comes from non-exercise factors, and the vast majority of that is controlled by our BMR.
It completely dwarfs everything else as far as its importance in determining how many calories we are going to burn in any given day. So anything we can do that will affect our BMR is going to make the largest difference in losing weight. And how do we affect our BMR? What is the number one factor in determining how efficient your BMR is? It is how much skeletal muscle you have, and this has been confirmed in countless studies. Research estimates that a pound of muscle at rest will burn a minimum of 7 to 10 calories per day.
So the more muscle you have, the higher your BMR, and the more calories your body will burn without you having to do a single thing.
And what's the most effective way to build muscle? Lifting weights. Resistance training is absolutely essential for muscular hypertrophy or muscle growth. And on the flip side, all of the steady state long duration cardio in the world by itself is not capable of stimulating muscular hypertrophy.
In fact, studies have shown something called the interference effect, where cardio, if done before lifting weights, can actually inhibit the muscular hypertrophy pathway, negatively affecting muscle growth, strength, and power.
Now, I'll do a deeper dive into that inhibition effect in a future video, but for now, it leads us to the fact that
cardio doesn't just not increase our BMR like resistance training does, but it's actually been proven to decrease the BMR.
A study published just last year had participants go through 24 weeks of an aerobic exercise regimen while carefully controlling and measuring their diet. Afterwards, they discovered that the weight loss that occurred over those 24 weeks was less than half of what it should have been given their energy intake and output. And they found that it was because the participants' resting metabolic rate had dropped by an average of 4%. More on that here shortly, but to summarize my reason number one, resistance training builds muscle, which boosts your BMR, which makes your body burn significantly more calories long term, while cardio can actually decrease your BMR, which makes your body burn fewer calories long term. However, as significant as that is, it's actually only part of a larger phenomenon called metabolic adaptation, which is my reason number two. To understand metabolic adaptation, let's take Bob here, who's overweight and hasn't exercised in years. If he were to start jogging for 20 to 30 minutes every day, he'd soon start to see some significant fat loss. However, after a few weeks and then a few months of doing that, he'd start to see that just running 30 minutes doesn't achieve the same effect. He'll have to run for 40, then 60, then 90, and on to achieve the same fat loss results that he initially achieved with just 30. What's happening is that his mind and body are undergoing several changes that together we call metabolic adaptation. Our bodies evolved to create fat in order to store energy for future use. And when your body starts to see that it's losing these stores of energy due to this aerobic exercise that you're doing, it adapts to try and preserve as much of those energy stores as possible. The first adaptation we've already discussed. It will lower your BMR, decreasing the amount of calories that you burn throughout the day. Second, it'll modify your hormone release, drastically increasing how much ghrelin your gut releases, which is the hormone that tells you you're hungry, and drastically decreasing how much leptin it releases, which is the hormone that tells you you're full, creating what scientists call the energy gap, where your body thinks it needs more energy and food than it really does. Third, your body will decrease the thermic effect of food, which, if you remember from the energy chart, is how many calories your body burns from digesting the food that you eat. Fourth, it'll change how your neurons respond to food-related cues, as in seeing, hearing, smelling food. Fifth, it will decrease mitochondrial efficiency. And finally, it will change the brain itself, deactivating and even atrophying parts of the insula and hypothalamus. All of this your body is doing subconsciously in order to minimize how much energy you are spending and promote weight gain, and all of it is triggered by cardio-induced weight loss, making it harder and harder for you to use in order to lose weight. And this is the primary reason why the vast majority of people who use dieting and cardio to lose weight will have good initial results, but will eventually gain it all right back. While resistance training, on the other hand, not only doesn't trigger these same metabolic adaptations, but it actually can counteract them, which I'll go over in more detail in reason number 6. However, the advantages that weightlifting has over cardio isn't just in the long term. Reason number 3 has to do with something called the excess post-exercise oxygen consumption, also known as the calorie afterburn. What it boils down to is there is a short-term increase in metabolism following a workout, an exercise session, but how large that increase in metabolism is and how long it lasts depends entirely on the type of exercise that you are doing. A study published in the European Journal of Applied Physiology found that after just a 30-minute weightlifting session, metabolism was boosted via the afterburn effect for over 38 hours. So what that means is that for almost 2 entire days after a single 30-minute weightlifting session, you're burning 100 calories an hour while you're sitting on the couch binging Netflix instead of just 80 calories an hour. And while a 20-calorie boost may not sound like that big of a difference, multiply that by 38 hours and it makes a huge difference. On the flip side, cardio has been proven to have little to no effect on post-exercise oxygen consumption, regardless of how long or intense the cardio session is. A study published in the Journal of Sports Science found that after participants performed aerobic exercise for 80 minutes at 80% of their maximum heart rate, so at a very high intensity, only elevated metabolism for 7 hours, despite the fact that that 80-minute aerobic session is almost 3 times as long as the weightlifting session was. And a recent meta-analysis looking at dozens of similar studies concluded that cardio is unlikely to stimulate any significant post-exercise fat loss. And I'll give some more tips on how to make sure your post-exercise burn and recovery is as effective as possible towards the end of this video. Reason number 4 is probably the biggest reason why I say if you had to pick between one of these types of exercise, resistance training is better. And it is that you can get all of the primary benefits of cardio by doing resistance training, but you cannot get the primary benefits of resistance training by doing cardio. So what do I mean by that? Well, let's take cardio. What are the 2 primary benefits of cardio? Well, one is the fat loss that results from aerobic metabolism, and 2 are the cardiovascular benefits, which is the primary reason why virtually all healthcare practitioners out there will recommend it. Regular cardio can and will improve your blood pressure, it'll reduce your risk of a heart attack, and dozens of other cardiovascular conditions. But how does it do that? Well, it does it by increasing your heart rate, by forcing your heart to work harder. The heart is a muscle, so to put it simply, the more you work it, the stronger it'll get. The American Heart Association actually defines aerobic exercise or cardio as activity that gets your heart rate up, thereby improving your heart health. And they recommend that adults get either 150 minutes a week of moderate aerobic exercise, defined as any activity that elevates your heart rate to between 50 to 70% of your maximum heart rate, or 75 minutes a week of intense aerobic exercise, defined as any activity that elevates your heart rate to between 70 to 85% of your maximum heart rate. Now, anyone who's gone through one of my hypertrophy series weightlifting programs can tell you that if you follow the program regimen in the specified time frame with the right intensity and wait times, your heart rate will be well above 50% of its maximum for at least that amount of time, giving you, by definition, all of the aerobic benefits of a moderate intensity aerobic exercise. And if you go through one of my Shred series weightlifting programs, your heart rate will be well above 70% of its maximum rate for well over 75 minutes a week, giving you, again, by definition, all of the cardiovascular benefits of a high-intensity aerobic activity.
In fact, recent research has shown that there are some aspects of cardiovascular health that resistance training does an even better job of improving than cardio does, such as improved vascularity and a lower increase in blood pressure in response to stress. There are also many other techniques you can use to increase the metabolic demand of your weightlifting session, giving you all of the fat loss benefits of aerobic exercise. For example, one of those techniques is called peripheral heart action training, where you superset or pair 2 exercises together that work opposite ends of the body, forcing your heart to work harder.
For example, if you did a set of leg extensions, your heart would pump a ton of blood into your leg muscles. Then, if you superset that with an incline press, your heart would have to then pull all that blood back from your legs and pump it up into your upper chest and arms, forcing it to work much harder than if you were to superset two exercises targeting the same general region, resulting in a significantly higher heart rate without requiring any increase in the intensity or duration of the lifts. You could also pair an anterior body exercise, such as a bench press, with a posterior body exercise, such as a back row, or any two areas that are on opposite sides of the heart with the same result. A study in 2015 even showed that peripheral heart action training resulted in even greater cardiovascular health improvements than HIIT training over a span of 3 months.
So the important point here is that there are many ways to make your resistance training as aerobically demanding as cardio, thus giving you all of the same fat loss benefits as cardio itself, while simultaneously giving you all of the benefits unique to resistance training. But the reverse is not possible. As we've already gone over, cardio cannot give you the same increase in muscle mass and strength that resistance training can. It cannot boost your basal metabolic rate. It cannot give you the same post-exercise caloric afterburn. And there are also many other benefits that are unique to resistance training, which we haven't even touched on.
But that's not all, because it brings us to my reason number 5, which is that not only can resistance training get you all of the benefits of cardio, but it can get you those benefits without requiring nearly as much time spent actually exercising. And we've seen that in several of the principles and research studies that we've already gone over. For example, in the study where the resistance training group had achieved greater cardiovascular benefits, it was despite them only working out 3 days a week compared to the aerobic group's 4. Resistance training also resulted in a drastically higher boost to post-exercise metabolism while requiring just a fraction of the time as cardio. The boost that resistance training gives to your basal metabolic rate is also a huge time saver, because it means that you'll be able to hit your daily calorie burn goals without spending nearly as much time actually exercising. While cardio can actually drop your BMR, meaning that you'll have to spend more and more time exercising to make up for that. Finally, this is what I think takes the cake and sums it all up. Research has shown that you can get virtually all of the benefits of resistance training in just 2 sessions of 15 to 20 minutes a week for a total of 30 to 40 minutes, while cardio requires 75 to 150 minutes. And even then, as we've already gone over, can't provide the same benefits that resistance training can. So to summarize my reason number 5, resistance training is a much more time-efficient method of fat loss, making it a better choice for anyone who has a busy schedule or just values their time.
Finally, my reason number 6 that weightlifting is a better choice for long-term fat loss than cardio is that lifting actually makes dieting easier and counteracts the negative effects, while cardio makes dieting harder and actually exacerbates the negative effects of dieting. Most people who want to lose fat will go on some type of calorie-restricted diet, and for good reason. No matter what exercise you do, you're going to have a really hard time burning fat if you don't consume fewer calories than you're burning on a daily basis. However, there are 2 main challenges or pitfalls of dieting, and the first is that just like cardio, dieting actually decreases your basal metabolic rate. Again, when you are dieting, you are restricting your energy intake. Your body sees that and it tries to compensate for it. And one of the ways it does that is by lowering your basal metabolic rate. And remember that your BMR accounts for the vast majority of calories that you burn on a daily basis. So dropping the BMR is going to significantly inhibit your ability to burn fat, regardless of what exercise you're doing. And problem number 2 is that a restricted diet won't just lead to losing fat, it will lead to losing lean body mass, aka muscle. And since how much muscle you have is the largest determinant in your basal metabolic rate, that will further compound this drop in how efficiently you are able to burn calories on a daily basis. A study published by the American College of Nutrition had subjects go on a restricted diet of 800 calories per day for 12 weeks. And then during that time, had one group do only aerobic exercise and the other do only resistance training. After those 12 weeks, what they found was that the diet plus cardio group had lost 8% of their lean body mass, while the diet plus weightlifting group had lost none. And the cardio plus diet group's resting metabolic rate had dropped significantly, while the diet plus weightlifting group's RMR had actually increased significantly, despite them going on a severely restricted calorie diet.
And I'll note, despite the fact that the cardio group exercised 4 times a week, while the resistance training group only exercised 3.
So the moral of the story, if you want to lose fat, you're going to go on some type of diet where you're consuming fewer calories than you burn. But that's going to get harder and harder to do, and less effective as your body starts to compensate and adapt. However, weightlifting will counteract those effects, enabling you to continue to efficiently burn calories throughout the day. While cardio by itself will not only not be able to counteract the negative effects of dieting, but it'll actually exacerbate them and make it harder and harder for you to lose weight as time goes by.
Now, there is one other strategy you can use to prevent these two negative effects of dieting, and it comes in the form of a supplement you can take, and that's going to be part of what I will go over at the end of this video. But for now, with all of this evidence that we've gone over, why are there still so many experts and research articles that say cardio is more effective than weight training for fat loss? Well, there's several reasons for this, but I'll give you the top three. The first, and probably the biggest, is that
they do not differentiate between fat loss and weight loss, as if losing a pound of fat and losing a pound of muscle were equally beneficial. If weight loss was the goal, regardless of how or where that weight came from, then there's a lot faster and easier ways to do that. I mean, you could just amputate a leg off and immediately lose a few dozen pounds. Or you could go into a coma and atrophy a bunch of pounds off. Or you could get the flu and puke a bunch of pounds out.
Obviously, these are extreme examples, but you get the point that weight loss is not the goal. Now, some studies will be a little better and they will use pounds of fat lost, yet that's still not a good indicator of success or even health. For example, let's suppose that I run a study that had two people exercise for a month, Bill only lifting weights and Bob only doing cardio on the same diet. After that month, Bill lost 5 pounds of fat, while Bob lost 10 over the same amount of time. Now, with that data, I could go ahead and publish a study saying that cardio is twice as effective at losing fat as weight training. And while it would be technically correct, in reality, it would be completely bogus, because what you don't know is that Bill started with just 20 pounds of body fat while Bob started with 100. And Bill put on 10 pounds of muscle with his exercise regimen during that month, while Bob actually lost 10 pounds of muscle. If you do the math, you'll find that Bill actually had an incredible 33% improvement in body fat percentage, while Bob's body fat percentage did not change at all. So even though Bob lost twice as much fat as Bill and 4 times as much weight, Bill's exercise regimen was actually much more effective at decreasing body fat percentage, which is, as you can clearly see in this example, much more important. So even though I could take the data and again, publish a research study saying that cardio is twice as effective at losing fat, now you understand how misleading that can be. Another reason why so many people and studies conclude that cardio is more effective for losing weight is that cardio does burn more calories per minute of time actually spent exercising than weightlifting does, if compared to low-intensity weight training. However, as we've already gone over in depth, the calories that you burn during the time spent actually exercising are inconsequential compared to the long-term effects of that exercise on your BMR, plus the post-exercise calorie afterburn, plus the metabolic adaptation that occurs, and everything else we've already gone over. So again, if I was just looking at the number of calories burned during the time that my participants spent exercising, I could publish a study saying that cardio is more effective at burning fat. But again, that would be misleading and would not apply to what you would see in the long term.
The last reason that I'll give for why some studies will say that cardio trumps resistance training for fat loss is poor study design or faulty methods. It wasn't until I started medical school that I came to realize not all studies are created equally. You really have to pay close attention to what methods were used and the study's design and whether they actually accounted for all of the different hidden variables that could be affecting their results. And more often than not, the answer is no.
As an example, I've done an in-depth breakdown of a 2013 study by a research team at Duke University that is one of the most cited studies by people who say cardio is better for fat loss. But to keep this video from being too long, I've published that breakdown in a blog post on my website that contains all my thoughts on this topic, as well as links to all the research studies I've cited. So use the link I'll put in the video description to check it out and understand why this study does not prove what they say it does.
So I told you earlier in the video that I'd give you another strategy for optimizing your post-workout calorie burn and recovery, and that is to take 4 key supplements immediately after your workout. One, of course, is protein, which most people are familiar with, and I will go over in depth in another video, but the other 3 are not as widely known. They are creatine monohydrate, ideally micronized, L-carnitine, and chlorosolic acid, all three of which are found in clinically effective doses in the Recharge post-workout supplement by Legion. Now, to briefly explain why these three, many people are aware of creatine's ability to enhance muscle building and strength, but don't know that it's actually been scientifically proven to reduce muscle damage after exercise as well, and most incredibly, has been shown to prevent the breakdown and loss of muscle that comes from a calorie-restricted diet. Remember, I went over in reason 6 that one of the biggest pitfalls of dieting is that it leads not only to fat loss, but muscle loss as well, which drops your BMR, making it harder for you to burn calories. Well, creatine has been proven to prevent that from happening, making it an essential supplement for anybody who is on a restricted calorie diet. While L-carnitine has been proven to enhance muscle repair, and chlorosolic acid has been proven to enhance post-workout nutrient absorption, ensuring that your muscles have all the tools they need to strengthen and grow. Now, you guys know that I will only ever endorse products that I truly believe in, that I have done the research on, and that I use myself. And there are several reasons why I really like Legion, and I choose to take their post-workout supplement over any of the others out there. If you're not familiar with Legion, they are the #1 brand in the world for all natural sports supplements, and they're always upfront about the fact that most people don't need supplements in order to lose fat and build muscle, but having the right ones can help significantly. One of the things that I really like about Legion is that not only do they only use research-backed ingredients in their products, but they always use those ingredients at clinically effective doses, so the quantities that are proven to be maximally effective. There are many supplements out there that have the right ingredients, but at far lower or even sometimes far higher quantities than have been proven to be effective and safe. And one of the ways that they do that is by hiding the exact quantities of each ingredient in a proprietary blend, which sounds fancy, but is really just a way for them to not have to tell you how much of each of those ingredients in the blend is actually included in the product. I also love that on their website, you can do a deep dive into every ingredient of every product and actually read the scientific research articles yourself that back all of their claims. Finally, all of their products are third-party tested, which is more important than you'd think. They're made in the United States, which ensures top quality, and they offer free shipping on all orders shipped to the United States with no minimum order size requirement. So try them out. They offer a 100% money-back satisfaction guarantee with no questions asked, so you have nothing to lose. And if you use the link that I'll put in the video description and the code DRGAINS, or DRGAINS, you'll get 20% off on your first order. Once again, if you like this video, please show your support by hitting that like button and leaving me a comment below. If you haven't yet, be sure to follow me on Instagram or TikTok for more science-based fitness content. Mahalo, my friends. Until next time.